Hello, all you unsung athletes. Welcome to the Unsung Athlete Podcast, where we give a voice to you, the unsung athlete, training every day, grinding without excuse, reward or not. I'm your host, Shannon Rose. Let's get started. Hello, and welcome to the Unsung Athlete Podcast, where we give a voice to you, the unsung athlete. I'm your host, Shannon Rose, and I'm here with the incredible Jonathan Carone. Dad, coach, and entrepreneur, you launched Healthy Sports Parents, a podcast and social platform that helps parents lead their kids through youth sports without losing their mind. I love that. You've led student ministries. You have experience with every level of youth athletics, all the way from rec leagues to Division I play. And you do this because of your ultimate why, to help other parents raise great humans, not just great athletes, which aligns wholly with the Unsung Athlete mission. I am so excited to hear your story. It's an honor to have you here.
Thanks for having me. And I do have to just make one note, because some people say this when I talk about Division I definitely wasn't a Division I athlete. I topped out at JV like freshman year, but my undergrad, my sophomore year, I started working for the football team where I went to school. So I got to have like 2.5 years working directly with those coaches and in that department before working for the athletic department as well. So I've got like 3.5 years of Division I like athletics work experience, but we both know I wasn't a Division I athlete.
I always like to start off with a little bit of heart-centered touch points. So what excites your heart these days?
That's a great question. Oh my gosh. Well, I'll start with this. Last night, my 8-year-old son, third grade, had his first soccer game of the season. And rec league, that normally wouldn't mean anything, but I have coached him 5 of the last 6 seasons, and I am not coaching him this season because he needed a different voice. He'd heard my voice enough and needed to be coached by someone else. I was amazed at how nervous I was to watch him play last night, because it's the first time since he was in kindergarten that I have no control over his play. I can't put him in I can't help, like on the sidelines, I got to shut up and just cheer on effort. So it's like, I can't help direct him in the game. So it's like, but what excited me was how well he played. Like, not just that, like, not necessarily the result of the performance, but it's like, no, he doesn't need me. He didn't need me out there. And so it's like, there's this thing as a parent where like, we always feel like we have to protect our kids and put them in the right positions. And this was a kid that went out there for the first time in 2.5 years without dad on the sidelines. Cause he's told my wife he misses me coaching him. But at 8 years old, he went out there, he played new positions that didn't want to play with me. And he did some things as a teammate that picked other kids up, because he's now on the older end of U10, where last year he was on the younger end. So like, this was those new kids' first time playing on the much bigger field. And so like, he helped them along, and that was just really fun to see.
You had this privilege of going from this coach who's intimately ingrained in it to taking a step back and just seeing the seeds you've planted come out. And isn't it funny? Always happens this way. Your kids don't necessarily flourish until they're given the opportunity to do so, particularly without you.
Well, and the crazy thing about it is, on the flip side, my daughter, who is 10 years old in 5th grade, I'm the head coach of her team for the first time since she was in 1st grade. And so she had a couple bad experiences last year. And so this year she was good with me coaching her because her team needed a coach. And she said, leaving practice the other night, that practice had been her favorite part of the week the last month. So I'm like, okay, like, she doesn't need me, but the fact that she has had the other experiences and has chosen, like, hey, daddy, I'm good with you coaching me this year. It's like, oh, okay. And like, so I'm getting similar experiences on totally opposite ends of the spectrum now.
Amazing.
So it's yeah.
I love that. Well, that would excite your heart. Good answer. So I know you've played sports in your earlier years and you continue to coach youth athletics, yet today in this moment, do you consider yourself an athlete, and why?
I like to do athletic things poorly. And so technically, I think I would be an athlete because of that. It'd just be a very terrible one.
Yeah.
But like, I have a standing disc golf game with some friends on Thursdays. And so we were yesterday, 2 hours, one of the best courses in the world, hiking through the woods, 2.5 miles. Had my best round at that course I've ever played. So it's like, those are athletic achievements at 38 years old. And I go to the gym regularly. And so it's like, does it hurt when I play sharks and minnows with my fifth and sixth graders at soccer practice? The next day, absolutely. But the fact I can still get out there and move a little bit and even move better than I could a few years ago is, yes, I will call myself a terrible athlete.
I love how you came around full circle because, I mean, that's what we are here at the Unsung Athletes. We are those who just keep showing up, working out, grinding, knowing there is no reward waiting for us each and every day. We're not going for that medal anymore. We're not going for the big W. We're just showing up because we know we want to and need to, and we're showing up as examples to that next generation.
So
So,
the
yeah,
guys I play disc golf with, they'll throw a disc poorly. They're all better than me, by the way. They'll throw it into a tree or something, and you just hear tacos and beer, tacos and beer, because that's their reward
that's their
after we go
reward.
play. They're not getting
Yes.
medals. Like, we're not earning trophies, but after we go, that's what they go do every single week before the gym reopens.
Right.
So
Which brings joy
yeah,
to them. Yeah.
they enjoy it, and yeah,
If it inspires lifelong movement, I'm all for it.
yeah, absolutely.
So we all started somewhere. Obviously, you've mentioned that you do athletics poorly. However, you started at your athletic journey somewhere. When you first saw yourself as an athlete, when you first touched a ball, got on a field, on a court. Tell me your origin story. When were some of those first sports you played? When did you do it? And when did you start seeing yourself as an athlete?
So I was always the kid that really liked sports. Like, one of my earliest memories is 93 when Chris Webber called a timeout against Carolina, and Carolina won the national championship, because I was a Carolina fan growing up. But one of my earliest sports memories, as crazy as it sounds, I was 4 years old. And to sign up for Little League and T-ball, you went to the American Legion and signed up.
Amazing.
I have an October birthday, so I was the youngest kid in my class. And so that first year, when all my friends were signing up for T-ball, we went to the American Legion and they wouldn't let me sign up because my birthday was after the August 31st deadline. So I was too young to play. So I remember my dad, like, not necessarily fighting with him, but arguing, like, why can't he play? Like, so my first memory of playing sports was having to wait a year behind everyone else to play. I remember in first or second grade, once I moved up to Pee Wee baseball, my neighbor's dad, his name was Greg, a hard-nosed guy, like, tough guy. He was one of our coaches that year, and he pulled me aside in practice one day just to teach me how to throw a ball. If you're just listening, my full-handed throw. So he took me aside and taught me how to just use two fingers, point it to where I want to throw, and we just threw at the fence for 5 or 10 minutes until I learned how to properly throw a baseball. In third grade, we played YMCA basketball. It was the first year we got to play basketball. Fourth and fifth grade, my uncle was my basketball coach. I played soccer through all these years as well. Like, I remember, like, so like, when I think back to elementary school, so much of it, I don't remember the details, but I have these flashes of memories of coming home from things, or the time at soccer practice, we laughed so hard I had green Gatorade come out of my nose. Like, those are just the random memories that I don't know that I ever thought of myself as an athlete in those times. It was just something that was baked into everything I did because I was playing something every single season.
Yeah. Isn't that funny? And for those who coach youth athletics or have young athletes that they're parenting or influencing in some way, that is incredible to remember. That
They're not going to remember the scores.
they're not going to remember the W's, they're not going to remember the scores. They're going to remember these little things. How did you help make them feel out there? Oh, what were those, core memories, those funny times, being with their friends, learning a skill, maybe a moment where they pushed harder than they ever have, but it wasn't I don't remember that. That's not my core memories of athletics either at a young
Most
age.
people, it's not. Like, if
No.
you win a state championship, maybe, and there's some losses I remember, there's some wins I remember. But when I think back to playing from the time I was 5 until the time I was like 14, 15, the amount of memories I have unrelated to a scoreboard versus the ones related to a scoreboard, it's exponentially more away from the scoreboard.
Absolutely. That just helps me, even as a parent of athletics, remember, like, that's what they remember. My daughter, she's in high school now, so she's at a different level of
Mhm.
play, and though she didn't make the high school team, she's still doing club ball.
Nice.
That's how she can continue to play, and this is a year where because she wasn't good for enough for high school, but a little better than club ball, she's better on her team,
Mhm.
so she's a little bit frustrated with the team.
Mhm.
However, this is a phenomenal opportunity for her to gain confidence,
To be a
men
leader.
to be a leader, to help these other girls, and she's also doing other things which are just so cool to watch, like, doing some team bonding things where they came up with a playlist. So they play their pump up list at practices now, and she brings a speaker. So it's just like you said, it's almost like every year they have these opportunities to flip and engage in different ways. And that it is just cool to see her emerge in that too.
So I interviewed West Virginia University's volleyball coach back in the spring, Jen Greeny,
Mm.
and she has this incredible rule with her team that she takes her Division I volleyball players and makes them coach rec league.
Ugh, my
But
heart.
because and she's like, not only does it build girls who want to play volleyball, all those things, but she said when those girls have to teach something to someone else, they become better players themselves because they notice things they never would have noticed otherwise. So in your daughter's position where she's the best player on the team, the thing that's going to make her even better for next year so that maybe she makes the school team is teaching those other girls how to be better because she'll learn different things and like, oh, I never thought of it this way, but this person and so she becomes that leader who notices other things and it just makes you better.
Right. So, on that thread, you have created this incredible space, Healthy Sports Parents. You turned this concept into a booming social platform. And in doing that, you're able to serve all of these parents who are raising youth athletics. And as we've talked about, youth athletics is a totally different ballgame, no pun intended, than when we played. Tell me how this came to be. What sparked your need to provide this space for parents?
I first started noticing it a couple years ago when we were in like 6 and 7-year-old YMCA basketball. And just the way some of the parents were acting, I went out and bought a youth sports are not about I created a youth sports are not about winning hoodie that I would wear to these games at the YMCA. And just because I wanted to let people know, like, it doesn't matter at 6 years old. Like the goal's too high, the ball's too big, and no one's getting drafted next week. Like, and so that's where like this first idea of like, man, like I had heard this was bad, but I'm experiencing it and like it's worse than I thought. And then what pushed me over the edge to start the podcast was my daughter had a rough experience about a year ago in soccer. And what really capped it off is we were at a tournament at the end of the year. And I saw a dad, his daughter had to be 8 or 9 years old because of the division we were playing in. Um, she came off the field and he was yelling at her to the point that she started crying and leaned into mom and he kept going. And just looking at the dad, like, I don't like to typecast too much, but I could kind of see his background, see like, and I knew in that moment that no one had ever told that dad and helped him understand why he was feeling what he was feeling in that moment. Why was he so emotionally dysregulated in that moment? So I had sympathy for the girl, but I had empathy for the dad because I could see myself in him had I not had some of the training that I've had. And so I asked some friends, like, do you think there's a need for this? And they all overwhelmingly said yes. So I reached out to some people I knew and planned out the first 7 episodes of the podcast to launch in January of 25. As the time of recording is 9 or 10 months ago. The second week the podcast was out, I did I do direct to camera reels and TikToks every day now, but I just did one on a whim. Didn't even script. Like I script them out now to keep me short because as you said earlier, I like to talk. But this one I I didn't script it. I just sat down in front of the camera and said, it was the Death of Rec League video, the first one I ever did. And within 2 weeks, it got 6 million views. And so I went from nothing to 25,000 followers overnight. And so that just kicked it into a different stratosphere that I never imagined it would ever get to. And through that, I've had all these opportunities come up to talk to different people. And I'm seeing that the need is bigger than I ever thought it was, but the amount of support for wanting to do it a better way is bigger than I ever thought it was as well.
Phenomenal. I love how it sparked from just this want for a better environment for you and for your kids, but also, you bring up such a wonderful perspective. I mean, there's all these memes out there and jokes out there about the sidelines and the
Mhm,
parents on the sidelines and the personas that you see. And then you also get that same thing in the group chats, the
mhm,
parent chats, and all of this, right? And most of it is pretty negative. And we all joke about it and go, oh, I know which one I am. But you really bring a great perspective to go, you're absolutely right. This idea of emotional intelligence and emotional regulation, when you as a parent are being triggered, because that's really what it is, you're being triggered by something that's happening through your kids, and to be able to disentangle from those emotions and be able to look at this kid who's going through their own experience. And I mean, as somebody who now has a kid in high school, I very much felt those heart tugs, like,
mhm,
in an overwhelming way where sometimes I would have to leave so that I wouldn't do something
mhm.
because I was so entangled. Now looking back, I realized that my kids had to go through those situations in order to build their own capacity to handle loss, to handle adversity through sports. If they hadn't have gone through those experiences, they would never have learned that lesson for themselves. They would have been relying on me to tell them what to do. And I'm not going to be there forever for them, especially in their sports journey. And then when they get into high school, you can't be. You'll
Right.
get thrown out of the game.
Well, and what so many people don't realize, and so much of what I talk about, I try to do it from a very human level because all of these things are natural. Like all these feelings that drive us to do these crazy things are inside all of us. It's just a matter
Right.
of how equipped are we to respond to them. And what so many of us don't realize is that youth sports really shine a mirror to all of our insecurities. And so many times, the reason we don't want our kids to experience those hard times is because we experience them ourselves and we know how much they suck. So,
So
so
painful.
we are trying to protect our kid from something that is going to be terrible to go through, but they need to go through it. So on one hand, we're trying to protect. On the other hand, we don't know how to parent through that because we might not have been parented through it and we might have had to deal with it on our own. So we don't know how to do it. And so we're not only having to relive our own struggle that we may not have been ever worked through, but we know this is going to be hard. I,
For
I'm
all
go
of us.
I'm going to have to sit with my kid as they cry on their bed. And I can't fix it. I can't take that away, and it's gonna remind me of all the things that I've dealt with. Like, the example I use for this all the time, that team that my daughter had a rough time last year, I helped start. Our town is so small that we have co-ed soccer. We're not big enough to split girls and boys, and when my daughter went from U8 to U10, she wanted to stop playing with the boys. And so she was ready to quit. She wanted to quit soccer because she didn't want to play with the boys, not because she disliked soccer. So I just happened to go to church with the CEO of the large club at the city south of us. And so I was like, "Hey, can we put together a rec team that practices up here and plays in your league on Saturdays?" Yeah, absolutely. So I pulled together a bunch of things to start that team. I did all of the background to get that going. And we had an incredible woman coach the team. I'll shout her name is Julie Gammons. And she had coached every sport, every girl's sport in middle school and high school for the last 20 years. She passed away a year ago. And so going into that fall season, I had planned to coach because I'd been helping her. 2 weeks before the season started, I got a text message from one of the people who had helped me before or helped Julie before. saying that her husband was going to coach in her honor and I wasn't needed anymore. And in that, she said that she wanted to turn the girls into beasts. So
Oh,
I knew just by the language that my approach to this was not wanted anymore. And first night of practice, when I was there just on the sidelines, I told the head coach, who I'm friends with, that I was going to be coaching my son's team so I wouldn't be at practice. And hopefully this doesn't offend anybody. But his response was just a one simple damn. And I could tell in that moment, like, he was it wasn't his decision for me not to coach or not to help out. And so all of my fears and insecurities of like, oh, I got pushed out, those started rising to the surface. So when my daughter had a bad experience 2 months later, because in her own words, I'm tired of getting yelled at, and
yeah.
she wanted to quit, and we're laying in her bed, it's like all of Jonathan's insecurities are coming up. But what Liv needed in that moment was dad. She didn't need 16-year-old Jonathan who didn't get picked up for the party. She didn't need 19-year-old Jonathan who got left behind or who got somebody chose someone else over. Like, she didn't need all of that. So I had to stuff all that down and just be the safe and secure dad in that moment. And then I had to go deal with my other stuff later that night when
Yeah.
everyone else had gone to bed and I'm laying in bed and I can't turn my brain off and I'm having to process all of it. But I say all that because I know how easy it is to be to be Jonathan in that moment. I could have talked so much crap about that coach. I could have said like so many, but I purposefully chose not to because I didn't want my 9-year-old to have a bad impression of someone who she's going to see for the rest of her life, probably because we live in the same small town. So it's like I chose to respect the humanity of the other person and not talk crap and not put them down, despite the fact that everything in me wanted to, because that I just wanted to lash out because of what I was feeling. And that was only because I went through some counseling a few years ago to understand what's inside me and how to properly handle that. But I understand that so many of us weren't taught how to do those things. And I am convinced that most parents want to do better. They just have never been taught how. So what we see on the sidelines and in the group chats so often is adults who have never been taught how to handle the emotions that go back to their childhood that they're still experiencing today. Because whether we like to admit it or not, 12-year-old us is still inside of us right now, no matter how old we are.
I know. All these heartstrings and, this, there's a different perspective for, male athletes and female athletes. But as you know, women
We're all human.
women and girls though they do have this point because there aren't a bunch of options to participate in sports just because you love the sport. Once you get to that, 13, 14-year-old age, and, we're fortunate that we live in a bigger city, so we've got
Mhm.
clubs around us that we can pay to play at, but not everyone, like you were talking about, you have a smaller area. Not everyone has those opportunities, and that's when these girls are dropping out at twice the rate of
Mhm.
boys, because they're almost forced to choose. Well, do you want a life or do you wanna be a beast? Because those are
Or
the options.
or it's, "Hey, if you even like playing this, you're gonna have to do it every day now." So, like,
Right.
my daughter for like, she's in 5th grade. Like, so me and my wife are already talking about this because we see it coming, like, in middle school, like, she still plays rec ball, and thankfully, we're in one of those smaller areas that to make the middle school girls soccer team, all you gotta do is show up with a physical and a pair of shin guards, and we'll buy you the shin guards if you don't have them. And so it's like, we're not like,
Brilliant.
they didn't cut a single kid this year. We're lucky in that sense, but if she wants to keep playing it, eventually that club ball idea is gonna have to come in. And so we've got kids at the middle school right now who are practicing and playing every day at school ball, going and practicing twice a week for club ball and then playing on the weekends. So they're playing 2 to 5 games a week and having 4 to 5 practices a week because of the combination of both at the same time. Well, my daughter also does dance.
Yeah,
And she
as you
likes to ride
should.
horses occasionally. She does not want to dedicate her entire life to one singular activity. Like, she doesn't wanna do competitive dance because she doesn't wanna do it all the time. And she likes to just sit at home sometimes and rest because that's the
Yes.
type of kid she is. And so we've created this atmosphere around sports where if you're not willing to practice 4 days a week and play all weekend, you are somehow less deserving of the opportunity to even play than the kids who want that, which the kids who want that, more power to them. Go chase your dreams, kid.
Absolutely.
I will support you all day long. But for the kids who just want to practice once or twice a week and play a game on the weekends with their buddies,
Yes.
once you get past 12 years old, that has all but disappeared.
Again, to your point, the death of rec league.
Mhm.
And this, me, it is a massive disservice to our youth because the things they learn at that age.
Mhm.
And when opportunities to even just move your body have dwindled in their lives.
I gained so much weight my sophomore through senior year of high school once I stopped playing sports without even realizing it. Cause like I
Yeah,
didn't change my life in terms of like, I wasn't up suddenly eating more. It's just I wasn't moving nearly as much. Just the idea of human movement for high school kids. We don't have intramurals anymore in most places.
ugh,
Like there's just no place to get out and play for the sake of playing. And even if there is, we have created this culture that tells kids, hey, if you're not great, there's no point even trying. If you
right,
don't want to be great, there's no point even trying. Like the joys found in the competition, the joy, like research literally tells us that what kids find is fun is competing, getting better, playing with their friends,
they're friends.
and being with coaches and parents who support them. Winning ranks 40th on the list of 80 something things. Those other things are what drives the joy in sports. But yet we've told kids, hey, if you don't want to be the best, screw you. We don't want you around.
Right. If you're not willing to put in the grind every single grind, are you kidding me? These are
Yeah.
kids.
They're going to have to work one day. So why don't we teach them how to work now? Because they're kids, guys. Like they don't have fully formed brains yet. But it's like we treat adolescent kids as pre-professionals because, well, one
Correct.
day they're going to get there. We might as well teach them how to. No, there's a process to this. They don't have the capacity to understand this at certain levels, not because of any fault of their own, but because the way the human body develops is on a pretty rigid timeline. But the brain doesn't develop till a certain time. Emotional things develop at a certain time. We know this. To deny it because of some other, like, we're just causing harm.
Plus, the physical body is developing at all different rates. So
Right.
I look at Izzy, my daughter, is 5'10", 200 pounds solid muscle. And her best friend might be 5 foot and might be 99 pounds,
Yeah.
literally half of her size. They're the same age.
Yeah. Well, so, all right. So my kids are 16 months apart. Olivia is 4'9". She's dying to get to 80 pounds. She just wants to hit 80, but she
Funny
can't do
girl.
it. Owen, 16 months younger, is 5'6" and 110 pounds. I went to pick him up there and I was like, dude, like, when'd you get
You're
so
solid.
strong? You keep saying I'm going to grow and I'm not growing. Everyone else, like, because all the girls are passing him in school now. Like, I'm never going to get any taller. I'm like, dude, you're turning 9 next month. You're going to get taller.
You
I
got some
promise.
time. There's this whole, okay, size and mass, but there's also studies that show this physiology that's happening with all the hormones. So
Mhm.
when you have a flood of hormones that, boosts you into that next phase of development, everything in your body starts to change. Like all the ligaments become
Mhm.
more stretchy and your muscles become a little more tender because they're growing and your joints are hurting. Like you just said, those things also impact kids. So you see some kids running like gazelles and you see some kids running like baby deer. There is nothing you can do to train that out of them.
I had a dad argue with me on Instagram about all this stuff his kid's doing, and like he's on the number 9 ranked 10
Well,
U
way to
soccer
go.
team in the country, and he plays on 4 different teams, and he does all this training all the way. And here's the thing I want to point out. He said he does all this training so that his muscles recover faster at 8 or 9 years old. And I go, dude, that's not how it works physically. I love the fact that he's training, but you need to understand what he's training. He is training cardio and he is training muscle movement. He's not training muscle recovery because at 8 years old before puberty, the hormones aren't there for muscle recovery. That's why we're not trying to get big and strong. Like, you can do weightlifting at 8, 9, 10 years old.
Right.
That if you're just
And you
working on the
absolutely should at
like,
an age
yeah,
appropriate level.
if you're
Yes.
doing movements and body
Yes.
weights, even some light dumbbell stuff,
Absolutely.
working on the range of motion, working on the flexibility, but that's what you're working on. At 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 years
You're
old,
not trying to build muscle.
you're not trying to build muscle and get stronger. You're just trying to build movement.
You're just trying to grow.
We we can deal with the muscles once you go through puberty, but
That's
you
right.
gotta get there. Like, we can't fast forward this thing,
No.
like, it's like that's not how this works. So, like, if we're going to do these things, we need to understand why we are doing them. Most people don't know. One of 2 things happens. They either lead out of a false knowledge, where they think they know something because they feel it should be true, but haven't taken the time to educate themselves, or they lead out of ignorance. And I don't say ignorance as a pejorative there. It's just, I mean it as the literal definition of the word. They just don't know any better. And so they do what everyone else is doing or what they were told to do without knowing what the actual thing was. So, how can we educate people and teach them these things in a way that is accessible without like going too in depth so that people can just do a little better?
Right. And participate and really become those unsung athletes. Like, that's one of my passions is raising this next generation of unsung athletes. These athletes who want to participate and move for life
Mhm.
because they love it. Because really that's what life is about. Most people will not do competitive sports for their entire life. So let's just
Somebody asked me yesterday, like, what's my goal for my kids? Because I have this platform, I've had to think about it.
yeah.
So I would say it's 2 things. It's 1, I want my kids to have every tool they need to be successful adults in whatever avenue they choose. And I'm using sports to teach them those tools: resiliency, being a good teammate, how to do hard, all those things. So that's one of my goals. But the other thing is for them to see movement as joy and a part of what you do in life, not something you have to do or you do because you're punished. Like,
Brilliant.
I don't run because running, I just negatively associate with punishment. So you mean like I should deadlift things so that I can pick boxes off the ground? Oh, okay. You mean I need to bench press so that I can push things? Like, if we need to move the fridge, I'm strong enough to move it. Okay, that makes a lot more sense now than you need to go do this so you don't get fat.
But if you tell children that, they have not had that perspective to connect to it. And so, like you said, I love your second goal is movement is joy. And
Mhm.
if there's anything with your youth athletes to plant seeds on, that to me would be an absolute number one. Get them to love moving so that they never stop. I want to know when people think of Jonathan, what do you want them to think, say, and feel? What do you want your legacy story to be?
So I don't know if you remember this little trendy thing that happened like 15 years ago where it was like, what words describe what you do? I remember working through it, and the 2 words that I came up with that have stuck since then were bring hope. And so when it gets down to everything I do, the whole heart behind it is to bring hope in whatever it is. So for my marketing age, like, I want to bring hope to business owners that they're going to be able to reach the customers they want. When it comes to coaching, I want to bring hope for the kids to help them reach the goals for themselves. With when it's this, like, you can see how it translates to everything, but I want people to have interacted with me, and whether they agree with me or disagree with me or like me or don't like me, they know that I was trying to help people become the best version of themselves that they could become.
I love that. Bring hope. My one of my sayings is love first. So in before all else, do everything in love. But I mean, hope is that same attitude.
So that tattoo right there
Yeah.
says sparrow, Spero, which is Latin for hope. And so there's an old Latin saying that I'm going to butcher because Latin's a dead language. Dum spiro spero, I think is the way, I think that's the Italian pronunciation, but it means while I breathe, I hope. That's just the core of who I am. I'm going to be that overwhelmingly obnoxious encourager. If I let myself get away from that, I become a type of person that I don't like, because I think at the core of who I am is that obnoxious encourager. And so if I can be that for someone, then that's just what I want to be.
I love that. Now for our final question. What is one thing you would say to inspire youth athletes in today's world?
The success comes not on the scoreboard, but in the effort. If you are giving what you have to perform the best you can, to work the hardest you can, and to be the best teammate you can, then that is success. You can't control the scoreboard. You cannot control the result of the game. When I coach, play hard, play smart, play together. If
Mm,
you can do those three things, then not only will you put yourself in the best position to win, but I consider those three things a success. So you will be successful if you play hard, if you play smart, and if you play together. So work hard, be a good teammate, do the things you're supposed to do, control the things you can control, and that's what success looks like.
Thank you for joining us on the Unsung Athlete Podcast, where we give a voice to you, the unsung athlete. I'm your host, Shannon Rose. Keep grinding without excuse.